Hey everyone, it's your good buddy Spider back with another great episode of Uncanny Media, the show. And it is the great big show. We got a lot going on. I have a lot of updates from things I talked about last episode. There is a lot that has gone on. It's been a week. It has been a week, especially for the wildlife who have just they're dealing with some crises over here. We're going to get to them and other things in a few minutes. It's good to be here though. I'm still coughing. I'm I still have drainage and things. I feel like I know this last time I got sick, it was the coronavirus. I'm fairly certain based on symptoms alone. It stood out from other times that I was sick. But now that I'm over it, I'm over that. I still have, of course, a lingering cough. Excuse me. And I still have drainage in my throat. And I feel like I'm regressing into some sort of a summer cold, which is what happened last year, where I was sick for like 6 months with just mild cold symptoms. Nothing serious, nothing that was really terrible, but I was just constantly feeling like there was drainage and coughing and things for 6 months straight. And I don't want to do that this time. So I've got more medicine I'm going to be ordering soon. I'm going to keep taking medicine until 100% the symptoms are gone because I'm not going to put up with this for another few weeks. So if you hear me cough, if you hear me get kind of like, then that's what's going on. The heat wave in Ohio has dimmed a little bit. It's not quite as hot. It's still pretty warm. It's been raining. It rained for like 3 days straight. It rained a little bit today, but not for much. But it's not quite as hot. It's still up in like the 80s, but it's not 90 plus degrees Fahrenheit as it had been. So that's nice. I've been able to sit out on the porch, whereas I couldn't for a few days last week because it was just too hot. There was just too much going on. It was unsafe, so to speak. Excuse me. That's going to happen a lot, unfortunately, during this episode. I don't know what's up with this cough. It's driving me nuts. But we already addressed it. We're not gonna harp on it. We're not gonna stay on it. We're talking about the weather here in Ohio. And like I said, it's starting to get better. It's starting to get better as far as the weather goes. I don't know what it's going to be like in August because July tends to not be the warmest month. Usually August tends to be the worst month. And if it's this hot in July, then it could be even worse in August. We'll have to see. I'm holding out hope. Um, this past weekend was 4th of July. If you're from the United States, you know what I'm about to talk about. If you're not from the United States, you may know what I'm talking about, or you might just be like, I don't know, what's so special. Um, it is United States Independence Day, and this year was the 250th anniversary of our Independence Day. So from 1776 on up until 2026, 250 years. So it was a big deal for a lot of people. I didn't get too deeply into it because I'm not super patriotic. I don't go around hating on the country. Like I'm not one of those people that's like America sucks because of this and this. I don't do that. I live here. I'm not going to go anyplace else. I'm not going to move to another country. I doubt in my lifetime. So, while I might visit other places, I'm not going to move out of this country. So, regardless of what's going on with maybe our government or whatever else, this is where I live. And so I I don't have a reason to be upset about it. But at the same time, I'm not going to be like, oh, yes, America. Da, 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 da. I don't have American flags draped all over my entire house. I don't listen to Toby Keith. Um, I don't do, I don't do the typical, the American things, right? I'm not like half the time I don't even vote because everybody that is there to vote for are jackasses. Like for right now in Ohio, we have a governor's race coming up in November. It's between Vivek Ramaswamy, who is a Trump guy, and I'm not going to say anything for or against that. You can decide how you feel about that. But he's big business. He wouldn't be my first choice for governor, right? His opponent on the other side is Amy Acton, who I saw firsthand during the virus years of 2021 through 2020 to 2023. Really, it was 3 years, and she is not a great decider of things. She is not a great policymaker. She is not good at doing things that help people. She's good at doing things that are not great for people, but she's not great at doing things that are for people, judging by her past record. So I wouldn't be voting for her. So neither one of those. They're both a couple of clowns if I was the insulting type, if I was the mudslinging type, if I was the honest type, which I am. The honest type, and I think they're a couple of clowns. There are a few third party people that have basically dropped out all by now. There's no third party people still in the race with any sort of viability, which is unfortunate. The only ones that I knew of were people who had a lot of problems. I didn't see anybody who was actually an improvement over the two party people. So I won't be doing that. I won't be a part of a system that's not for me, if you know what I mean. So so I'm not a very patriotic person. I'm not a hating person on the country, but I'm not going to go out of my way to be like America, yeah. I'm not. It's not how I deal with things. But it was the 250th anniversary, so a lot of places were doing extra fireworks and extra this and extra that. And we had, excuse me, we had in my town, they do the fireworks a couple of days beforehand for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's just because city offices are always closed on the weekend and they don't want to work on the weekend, so they don't want to do fireworks on the weekend. And July 4th happened to be on a Saturday. So, but they did it on Thursday. And I guess it was a nice display. My daughter and the wife went down to Monument Park where they did the fireworks and they watched them and they enjoyed them. I stayed home. I didn't go outside. I don't really like fireworks. I don't like the noise. I don't like the brightness. There's not much I like about fireworks. I just have nothing good to say about them. But at the same time, I'm not going to call for a boycott. I'm not going to say nobody should be shooting off fireworks. Arr, I'm not. I'm not that kind of a person. I just don't like them personally, and that's okay for me. You can like them. You can enjoy them with your family or yourself, whatever. Have fun. It's not a big deal for me. But I stayed home. And then they also went to the fireworks in Akron, Ohio, which is slightly north of here by a few minutes. And those were on the 4th, and they went up and they watched those as well. So my daughter got 2 days of fireworks, which she enjoyed. I would have hated every second of it, but I'm glad she enjoyed it. And people have asked on occasions where there's things that like my daughter likes to go to, like fireworks, and I don't. When I don't go, People ask, well, why don't you just go to support your daughter? Why don't you? Because she'll want to see you enjoying things. And I want to be honest with my daughter. I want her to see that it's okay for people not to like things, and it's okay for her to like things that other people don't like. I don't want her to ever feel like she can't do something because someone else in her life doesn't want to do it, right? I want her to grow up to be like, you know what? Hey, there's fireworks coming up. Do you want to go? And maybe her best friend or her, if she gets into a relationship when she's old enough or things like that, and they say, oh, no, I don't really want to go. I don't want her to feel like she can't go because they don't want to go. I think I want her to be able to respect their decision that some people don't like things, but I want her to be confident enough to be like, you know what? That's cool, but I'm going to go. I want to go see them. I like them. And not feel bad about it and not feel like, oh, I wish they could have been here. Just like, you know what? I'm enjoying these things. These are for me. These are great, and I like them. And it doesn't matter if they don't like them. They don't have to like them because I like them. And that's how I would like her to grow up to be able to enjoy things that she enjoys without having to base that on whether other people enjoy things. No stigma, no no guilt, that kind of thing. And anybody who doesn't respect those decisions of hers, I hope that she grows up to understand that if they don't respect your choices, then they don't need to be in your life because respect goes both ways. And if somebody tells you, oh, well, I don't want to go fireworks, so you shouldn't go to fireworks, I want her to be able to say, no, I want to go and I'm going to go. Just because you don't like them doesn't matter to me. I want to go because I don't think anybody should be able to dictate that to her and vice versa. She's not going to tell somebody else, you need to come to the fireworks with me. No, she's not going to do that. She's going to grow up and be like, hey, if you don't want to go, if that's fine, I'll go. And if they say, no, you can't go, she'll be like, heck, I won't. You just watch me. And she'll go anyway. And that's fair. I hope she grows up with that attitude. And I hope whoever she brings into her life, friendship or otherwise, respects that. Because that's how people should be. I think the world would be a much better place if everybody respected each other on that level. But instead, you have people going online. There was the Taylor Swift wedding, which I don't care about. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm not going to go out and be like, I'm a hater for Taylor Swift. I don't. I just don't care. I'm not that invested. But I wasn't going to worry about it. But there are people online who are like, if you don't think it was a beautiful wedding, then you're just a horrible person and you're hateful to Taylor Swift and you just don't care about her happiness. And there are people that are like that are so invested, and I think that's too much. It's too much. They get like that about all kinds of subjects. About, oh, you don't like this game I like? Well, screw you. You're a terrible person. Oh, you don't like this movie I like? You're just a hater. You're a misogynist. You're this. And then, we're at this weird point where it's it's difficult not to like things. You know what I mean? If you publicly say, I don't like this, instead of just being, oh, well, he doesn't like it, that's fine. I like it, and that's cool. Instead of that, it's like, you don't like this? Why? What's the problem with it? Why are you like this? Why do you feel like it? You must be this kind of a person because you don't like this. You're obviously doing like having hateful feelings about this and this, and you need to be canceled. And that's how everything is these days. And I hope my daughter can grow up without those feelings. I think I'm doing pretty good teaching her not to feel that way, to have her own individual opinion and not to be pressured and not to just follow along, right? And not to feel guilty about it either. I would hate for her to feel guilty about liking the things she likes and not liking what she doesn't like. So that's the goal. That's my parenting goal. And I think that's a good thing if I do say so myself. So 4th of July. Um I was gonna go out and like grill some food, but it was obnoxiously hot. It was too hot to run the grill, and then it rained, so it was too wet to to do the grill. So I ended up just making burgers inside the house in the air fryer, which is not quite the same. They were good, but it wasn't the same. So that was 4th of July for me and my family. If you did something for it, hey, fantastic. Hope you enjoyed yourself. I'm not hating on you. But let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about the continuing collapse in real time of the gaming industry, specifically the console gaming industry. Um, I talked about this last week. It started, and I feel like this is a catalyst for everything that's happened. I feel like everything was at a breaking point, and we were just waiting. We were waiting for the last straw. And I feel like the whole Destiny 2 situation with ending the live service updates and all that was the spark that lit the fire. There's been resentment brewing for a long time in the gaming community, not just for console, but for gaming as a whole. But consoles are really where most of that was focused on. And it had to do with studios not listening to what the players wanted, studios adding too many microtransactions, studios, just things going a little out of control. So, um, and I think players were just in increments, they were starting to speak out. They were saying, we don't like this, we don't want this. And studios were like, no, you're going to get this because this is what we're putting out. And it, the whole thing with Destiny 2 really just broke the whole thing wide open. It lit the flame, and people were like, you know what? I'm not putting up with this anymore. I put time into these games. I want them to be good. And if these studios aren't going to make them good, then I'm not going to play them anymore. I'm not going to raise my voice about it. And while Destiny 2 is kind of a silly game to be that upset about, considering how Bungie has reacted or acted over the years, this led to Bungie being one of the first studios to really be taken apart almost to the bare bones by Sony. And that led to Sony saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to make physical discs anymore for the next console generation, which pissed people off because everybody wants to be able to own their games. And that led to Xbox having a thing saying, you know what? We'll probably do the same thing, but we'll try to help you digitize your library first. And then that led to the pricing of the next generation of consoles, which are going to be upwards into PC pricing. Which may, if you're going to price a console at the same price as a PC, then there's no reason not to buy a PC. The whole reason I'd still get into consoles is for convenience. I buy an Xbox so I don't have to buy a high-end gaming PC. I don't have to worry about upgrading it. I don't have to worry about obsolescence. I don't have to. I just buy a console, and then in a few years, if another one comes out and it's reasonable priced, and I want to keep playing new games, okay. But I'm not going to spend the same money for a console that I would for a high-end gaming PC. Otherwise, I would have bought a high-end gaming PC, right? Because a console, I don't have to upgrade the memory. I don't have to upgrade the video card. I don't got to switch out the hard drives, even though I always need more space on consoles these days. But with a PC, you have to do all those things. And people say, oh, yeah, I'm buying a PC and it's going to future proof my game collection. I'm going to have like the latest stuff. But PC stuff only lasts a few years. I mean, it doesn't like fall apart. I'm just saying it's obsolete within a few years because new games are pushing the graphics and pushing this and pushing that. And if you want to keep playing them at the same level, you have to keep upgrading that PC and you have to keep spending money. A good gaming PC is an investment that you have to continue to pour money into. It's not something that you buy once. And eventually then you have to replace everything because eventually the motherboard is too old and eventually the core components are too old. So you still have to replace that after a certain amount of time. It's not as soon as a console, but you still have to do it, and it's more expensive in the long term. PCs are more expensive than consoles in the long term. They have better graphics, they have better capabilities because you can continue to tweak and upgrade them than the consoles. So that's a given. So they have a right to be more expensive, but they're so much more maintenance. And if you enjoy doing that, that's cool. I used to like doing that. I used to like building computers. And it's not like I hate it now. It's just inconvenient. I don't have that kind of time. I don't have that kind of income. Spending $1,300 to $1,500 on a gaming PC seems pretty ludicrous when I could spend 500, which is still a lot of money, but it's considerably less than the PC. If I can spend 500 on a console, but if a console is now going to be $1,000 or more, I'm not going to buy any more consoles. I'm just not. I'm not spending that kind of money. And a lot of other people are feeling that same way now. They're seeing, hey, you know what? The whole reason I started buying consoles is starting to become less of a reason. And if I have to go to a PC when I didn't want to because I would have rather buy a console, then why am I gaming at all? And so a lot of people are getting out of it, and I think that's starting to hit the big the big people, Sony specifically, and Xbox, and even Nintendo is starting to feel the strain. And the thing about it is that when I say they're feeling the strain, that there are studios closing down, people are getting laid off. I talked about how Microsoft last week. I talked about how Microsoft was laying people off and how Bungie was laying people off via Sony and everything like that, right? Well, it came out this past week, over the last few days, that Microsoft is letting go of 4,800 people. Almost all of them are in their gaming divisions. And 3,200 of those are specifically in the Xbox area. And they're divesting themselves of four studios and negotiating the restructuring of a fifth. Now let's take a look. The studios that they're getting rid of, to be fair, have been making relatively niche games that aren't a big deal. One of the studios was responsible for the port and the re-release of an old PC game I used to like called Full Throttle, which is a Lucasfilm game from way back in the day, from the 90s. And they brought it back with no big remastering, no changes. It was just they brought it back so you can play it on modern consoles, which is fantastic because it's a fun game. But they didn't make the game, they didn't develop it, so I don't have any loyalty towards them as a studio. I don't have any of their other games. I don't have any of their other games. Of the four studios, I have maybe one modern game from the four of them, and that one was just I liked it, but it was too difficult. I didn't get very far in it. It was very Dark Souls-esque as far as gameplay. So if you're not into games and you're not a gamer person, you don't know any of these game titles or names or anything, then you might be a little lost right now. If you're tuning into the podcast for the first time, or you've been a long time follower and you've never been into the game stuff, but just bear with me, right? Now, the fifth studio that's in negotiations about restructuring is Arcane Studios. And Arcane was connected with Bethesda on some level, if I remember right. And they made a game called Prey, which I really, really liked. Oh, I loved it. It's a fantastic game. I still play it occasionally. And they make other games that I like. The Dishonored series. I've played three of those games. I've beaten two, but I have not beaten the third. Um, and a few other games. I like that studio. Now that studio is a French studio, and so it has, I guess, in France, the way they do business is the studio has some connection with the French government. Like they have a say in how much you can do to the studio. Like Microsoft, I guess, owns a stake in the studio to a certain extent, but they can't just say flat out, "Hey, we want to lay off this many people and we want to do this with the studio," because I guess the French government has to have a say in that due to either workers' rights or something like that. I'm not sure what the exact situation is, but they're in negotiations right now. And I hope that studio survives and sticks with Microsoft because they make good games. I like their games. I've played more games from them than I have from any of the other four studios combined. But the good thing is that Xbox is not, well, Microsoft, not just Xbox, but Microsoft is not shutting down the studios. They are divesting the studios so that those studios can become independent again with their existing catalogs and their games still accessible. And so while they are laying people off and getting rid of things, they are putting some effort into letting these other entities survive and continue to make games and continue to do good things, which is a good move, I feel. But it's also come out that apparently they have lost a massive amount of money on the Game Pass program. Now, Game Pass came out some years ago as an extension and a replacement for what was called Xbox Live Gold. Xbox Live Gold was their service for if you wanted to play games multiplayer online, you had to sign up for a subscription service with Xbox, which is kind of a shitty way to do things, but that's how everybody did. They did it, Nintendo did it, PlayStation did it with PlayStation Plus, etc. Okay? But with Xbox Live Gold, it gave you the opportunity to play online, which was not a big deal because I didn't play online, but they also gave you free games and a whole bunch of good stuff every month. You got a lot of things with that. It was replaced by Game Pass, which was a monthly subscription service rather than a you get free stuff every month kind of thing. You get access to games that you don't own, but a large catalog of at least like 300 games that are free to play if you're paying the monthly fee. So you could play like 12 games, which are $60 a pop if you bought them each individually, but you're playing them for at the time it was like 12.99. So it's a pretty good deal, right? The price to Game Pass shot up to $30 a month, and the games that they kept adding to Game Pass were third-party indie titles that weren't all that great. There were very few like big games that ended up on Game Pass. Once in a while, you'd get something good, but often it was just smaller studios, which is, smaller studios still make good games and they still have to make money, but this is your big subscription service for your main console. I mean, you should be putting things that are going to really draw people in and having people buy the indie games. The indie games should be for people to buy so these indie studios can survive and the big studios can absorb the cost of being able to play Call of Duty for free, right? But the price to Game Pass was really expensive. You weren't getting a whole lot out of it. It was kind of unsatisfactory. And they lost a ton of money. They expected to have three times the player numbers of Game Pass, the subscriber numbers now, as they do. Apparently, they have half as many as they expected, which I have to wonder if maybe they're going to get rid of Game Pass in the future. What will they replace it with? Will they go back to like an Xbox Live Gold system, or what will they do? Will we just be out of luck? Will we just pay a monthly fee just for the privilege of playing online, which is kind of irritating because I don't care to play online, but everything is online anyway. Even if you don't play games online, the consoles have to be online for verification to show that you paid for the games, to show that you're a legal licensee of the games, and all this other kind of bullshit. So I don't know. It's the whole thing is kind of falling apart really quick, and I'm wondering what's all going to be left when the dust all settles. But let's talk about something else. This is something that's it's a local thing, but it's been drawing other people from other states into it. And it's a fascinating bit of theater that's going on right now. I have talked about multiple episodes now. You might be tired of hearing about it, but I'm just fascinated. This is my soap operas, basically. People watch their soap operas religiously for the drama and everything. This is what this is for me. I'm just glued to the screen. I'm glued to the screen about what's going on with these people. The local wildlife, I call them. And these are the local rabble rousers. These are people in my town, generally, sometimes across the state, excuse me, who are aggrieved with their local governments, their city governments and their state governments. They have an issue and they're mad as hell about it. They're gonna yell and they're gonna shout and they're gonna go to the weekly city council meetings and they're gonna cuss you out is what they want to do and they're gonna use bad language. Excuse me, and they're gonna wave signs and they're gonna do all these things. And it gets them into trouble because that's not how you handle business. That's not how you handle business, right? And we've talked about that before. But excuse me, I'm getting excitable, so my throat's getting iffy. Excuse me, I apologize for that. Let me take a drink here. But I talked last week how a member of of this local wildlife network, they had gotten arrested for not paying a fine, right? That person is still in jail. They have not yet been released. It's a serious thing. And people have kind of stopped talking about it publicly. I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, but they've stopped talking about it publicly, which is kind of interesting. Because usually when somebody's locked up and they're like, he didn't do anything wrong, he's this and that, they get fired up and they're constantly shouting about, you better release them, you better let them go. Ah. There was talk of a bunch of people getting together and organizing the funds to pay his fines for him, but that didn't materialize because I think that there's more going on. I think this person dug himself a hole and he's in a bunch of trouble. And now that's kind of working its way through. And these people are thinking, well, how much do we want to defend this guy? Which is too bad because they're all bros, right? They're all friends. They're all, oh, we would do everything for each other. Oh, but we're not going to help get you out of jail. You're on your own, buddy. He's still there. Um, the leader, so called de facto, of this group, who runs a Facebook page, as I've mentioned before, called the Hall of Shame, targeting the local government. He's got these delusions. Okay, he sees himself as this big player in this movement for advocacy for against advocacy against child trafficking. Now, first, of course, I've said before that there is an issue in this country and in many countries with child trafficking and with adult trafficking. It's apparent it's unfortunately, not apparently, it is a thing, unfortunately, that happens. And every few weeks, you see a news story about, oh yeah, sheriffs in multiple counties have rescued 17 children from a trafficking ring and blah blah. You see that a lot. It happens in mainstream media. It's not fringe stuff. But because this guy, of course, his kids were taken away from him at some point because of a divorce or something, some custody battle, and he fought to get them back, and he got them back. He's got this idea in his head that he is now he's the paladin, he's the champion, he's the guy who's going to represent all of the kids across the world and get them all home, and he's going to fight back against child protection services who are corrupt, and he's going to fight against the traffickers, and he's going to do all these things. And that's what he rants and raves about all the time. And he's gotten in trouble with it more than once because the way that he approaches it is he accuses people who don't necessarily jump right on board with him of being traffickers, of being pedophiles, of being a whole bunch of other things, whether it's true or not. He doesn't care. He doesn't really care. He just, if you're not working with him towards his goals of freeing the children across the world, then you are one of those negative things automatically. Because obviously you have something to do with it, or you have something to hide, or you, if you don't care, then you don't care about the kids, and you're a terrible person, this and that. I mean, they told me that I was blind and I didn't see the problem because I said, hey, you know what? I've never had my kid taken away. I take care of my kid the best I can. I've got my hands full taking care of her. I can't be responsible for the entire world. I'm taking care of my family. And they saw that as a problem. And I know you need some people to defend the rights of kids across the world, but you don't need every single person out there spending time doing this kind of stuff. And so they yelled at me about it, but that's as far as it got because I didn't argue with them, I didn't engage with them on that, I didn't flame them, I didn't insult them. I stayed calm, and they use tactics to try to get you mad online so that they can say, "Hey, see, look how combative they're being, look how defensive they're being, look, to make themselves look better and make you look bad." And I don't do that kind of stuff. I don't get into flame wars, right? But this guy, he's got court in September for trespassing because they told him not to show up at the city council meetings because he does not live in this city. He lives in a neighboring town. Again, he shows up to this city to mess around with this city instead of going to his own town council meetings, right? Maybe he used to live here, so he's got an axe to grind, but he doesn't live here anymore. So he comes here expecting them to let him talk and let him write, and he wears T-shirts with slogans on them that are inflammatory. He makes signs that are inflammatory. He writes messages in chalk out on the sidewalk, outside of the courthouse and the city buildings. Because chalk is just chalk. You can wash that away, so it's not vandalism if you just write out there, right? And so they have a trespassing case against him for him trying to get into one of the meetings and them saying no, and him being who he is. So he's fighting that. But he goes regularly on his Facebook Lives and says things like this. He says, we need to go to your city council meetings and put boots to throats. And he may mean that in a metaphorical sense. He may mean that in a representative sense, like, oh, we need to go in there and hold them accountable. But when you say that, when you say those words, people who hear that don't know if you mean that literally or not. You can say, oh, yeah, I'm not actually going to do that. But if you said it, they don't know. So it counts as a threat. And so the city is watching him for that. They're keeping an eye on him, and I have a feeling they're going to crack down on him again because he's said these kind of things more than once. And when I say they're having a crisis, He he's proud of his connections with people in other states who are fighting the good fight, who are organizing against their local governments for the to free the children and all this other kind of stuff, right? One of the people who has been very vocal, who's been egging him on, he's like, "Yeah, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. We're not going to work with them anymore. We're going to fight back." Who's been really aggressive? He's in New York, in a little area called Troy, New York, a tiny little county near the mountains, near the Adirondacks. And apparently he had a visit and was arrested. He's been released, but he was arrested by U.S. Marshals because of the things that he was saying, because words have power. So that's got them quiet and rattled because now they all wonder, oh, well, I wonder if the U.S. Marshals are going to come for the rest of us. Oh, so they've been a little bit quieter. But another thing happened. Apparently, another person who they all respected, there was a woman, and I don't use any names because I'm not trying to call anybody out specifically, and I'm not trying to publicly shame anybody. I'm not trying to get anybody canceled. It's not what I do. But I talk about their stories in a vague way because it's fascinating. There's this woman who has been fighting to get one of her kids back, her son, I guess, for quite a long time. And it went all the way up to her state's Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court declined her case. They said, no, we're not going to listen to it. And then apparently it was posted somewhere that this woman ended her life. Okay, it didn't happen, but this is what, okay, follow along. And so a bunch of people in the quote unquote community in what this guy would call the movement, which I call the bowel movement because it's basically what it is because it's full of shit. But everybody, a bunch of people in the movement were all, oh no, it's so sad what they did to her. They drove her to do this. They drove her to take her life. It's horrible and all this other. And everybody was outpouring. And it turns out that she's alive, and she did no such thing. She didn't even make an attempt. And you might think, oh well, that's good. It was just a rumor that got started, right? Digging deeper, it turns out that the reason this woman got her child taken away to begin with was because she and a romantic partner had passed out from doing drugs, heavy drugs, super heavy drugs. And her son had gone out of the house to the neighbor and said, my mom won't wake up. And the neighbors called the police, be like, hey, we don't know what's going on. And protective services came out and they removed the child from the home. And apparently, this woman has faked her own death multiple times. And this apparently is being considered one of those times. And I guess through the rumor mill, her son, who she's trying to get back, I guess her son is doing very well wherever he's been, whatever he was placed at. I don't know if he's with other family or if he's with a foster program or what, but I guess he's doing very well there and he's happy. So, which had a lot to do with why that state's Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to hear your case because you were this and your son is living a good life. But because this woman was held up as an example of this is the corrupt child protective system, they're keeping her child from her, and it drove her to do these terrible things to herself, which ended up not being true. It's rattled the whole bunch of them. And there are people taking sides and arguing with each other, and they're like, oh no, well, we should support her, and we should do this, and we should do. And none of these people really know what they're doing. None of these people really know what they're doing. They're looking up case studies, thinking that if I quote some legal cases here and there, I have an advantage because I've done my research. And research isn't just looking up things, taking notes, and just accepting the bare minimum. Research is a deeper activity than that. It requires years of study in various disciplines. And the wildlife is just not good at it. And they are cocky and they think, oh, we can get away with this and we can do this and we're going to make change. And they're just failing left and right. And it's making things worse for the actual problem because trafficking and things like that, excuse me, is a real life problem. It does happen. It's not something that they made up, but they don't know what they're doing and they're trying to fix it. And they keep having these court cases and they keep losing these court cases. And I wish I could just I sometimes wish I could just walk up to them and put my hands on their shoulders and say, "Listen, this is what you're doing wrong. You're screwing things up for everybody. Stop it." But they won't listen. I know they won't listen because their behavior is defensive. It's 100% defensive on everything, and they just won't listen. But I keep watching. Excuse me, pardon me. I feel bad about that, really, about this cough. But I keep watching their struggles because I'm interested in how it's going to end up. I think most of them are going to end up in jail because they're going to do things that they shouldn't. They're going to attack someone or they're going to threaten someone or they're going to do these things. And then that's only going to reinforce their feelings that they're being targeted because nobody wants, because obviously they're saying something that makes people afraid. They're making the powers that be afraid of them, the people in authority, because they're telling the truth. Well, it's not that. It's because you keep threatening people. You're breaking the law. You keep breaking the law and you keep threatening people. And so you keep getting arrested and you keep losing your court cases. Excuse me. I don't know how more clear I can be on that. But they won't listen to me. I guarantee it. They won't listen to me. On the edges of this are the Q people, which I've talked about multiple times. The people who think that the president of the United States is part of some secret movement to take down the deep state and the Illuminati, and he's sending coded messages to them, and all of these people are in their mid 50s, retired, out of shape, with the most basic computer skills, and they think that they're Anons, which means they're part of the anonymous hacker group, which none of them have hacked anything in their life. They have no idea what they're doing, but they're Anons. We're anonymous. We're Anons. It's a red flag. And I've been following some of these fringe people, and they keep getting they make like 5 or 6 fake profiles so they can spread memes and they can spread bigotry because most of these people are racist and they're against Jewish people. And they're just they're very hateful, horrible people, and we're gonna take back our country against all these invaders. And it's patently absurd. But they make multiple profiles, and one thing I like to do is I like to keep an eye on them and watch how many profiles get reckoned with in a span of time. They get they get nuked, they get deleted. It's hilarious to see them complain about it. Like, oh, those jerks, they took one of my profiles down. Well, you don't need like 5 fake profiles if you're not saying things that aren't problematic. You don't. You don't need 5 fake profiles. And you got no reason to be upset when some of them get taken down. So, and they're at the fringes of this, and it's all insidious and it's all self-defeating, which is a shame because again, there is a trafficking problem in this country. And I'm not going to say it's because of foreigners moving in. I'm not going to say it's because of some Illuminati pedophile ring. I'm not going to say because I don't believe necessarily all that. I think it's just because there are horrible people in the world. And while the horrible people are in a minority, there are 6 to 7 billion people in the world. So even a small fraction of that is a lot of people. And that's a lot of horrible folks. And that's a shame. There's a lot of horrible people. Even just a few thousand is too many. But what are you going to do about it? You can't. The best you can do is just be vigilant, really. Protect yourself, protect your family, or protect your family and protect yourself. Protect your family first, then protect yourself second. If you have kids, protect your kids first, above all. Protect your kids, protect your family, protect yourself. And as much as I would love to that the world was a better place and that we could free everybody from these kind of situations, we can't. So you have to be responsible for your own self. And the more people that are responsible for their own selves, eventually you're going to out the people who are terrible and they're going to get taken away. But you have to be vigilant over your own family. And that's where the part of the problem is. We're not vigilant over our own home life. We don't take care of things at home. We don't take care of safety. We don't take care of what's at home first before we take care of anything else. And that's where the problem is because you let that break down and that leaves an opening for somebody to come in and do something with their family, which is awful. And I hate it, but that's how life is, unfortunately. So I take care of my family first. Family first, then me. And that's just how I live my life. We're coming towards the last few minutes. We've had our updates. We've talked about the game community. We've talked about the wildlife and the friends. FRENS. Red flag. I'm not sure what else really to inject into this portion of the show. I don't want to just leave off with nothing. But what do we have upcoming? I'm going to keep following these stories because these are what's big right now. This is the continuing saga, I guess, of the collapse of the gaming industry and the local wildlife. We're going to keep watching these things, and so they're probably going to feature heavily over the next several shows, depending on what's going on in the world. Apparently, there's various political things happening. There's a big scandal going on, like a lot of rumors, and this is a weird thing. Kentucky, what was he? A senator? Kentucky senator? Mitch McConnell? Was he a senator or was he a representative? I don't remember. I think he was a senator. He fell and was unresponsive at some point recently, over the last week or so, near the Capitol. And so he's been in the hospital, and there's been just a flurry of just crazy stories. There's this huge influx of stories saying that he's legally brain dead and he's basically done, and they're trying to cover it up and hush it up and all this other kinds of things. But then there's stuff from the other side saying, no, no, I talked to him today. We had a good conversation for 17 minutes, for 20 minutes, for 19 minutes. And there's people saying that they talked to him on the phone. He's perfectly fine, whatever. But they're not allowing reporters and things in there to judge his condition and things like that. And on the one hand, I'm kind of like, yeah, don't bother the guy. He's an old man. He doesn't need people going in there and harassing him from the media. But on the other hand, it's kind of like you should put out some kind of a statement saying it's okay, but they haven't done that. Like, there's been no official statement saying that he's okay. It's just all of these stories. People on one side saying he's not responsive, he's a vegetable. People on the other side saying he's perfectly fine. He's had conversations with several people, and no one really knows. And I'm not like I don't know the guy. I don't know. I don't live in Kentucky. I have no loyalty towards Mr. McConnell in any way. But it's just a weird thing to be like, who knows? Maybe next week I'll have an update to that story. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And then of course we had the Taylor Swift wedding, which I don't give a shit about. Nobody cares. Nobody who actually cares about anything in life actually cares about the Taylor Swift wedding. But if you're into celebrity gossip bullshit like that, by all means, it happened. There you go. The Taylor Swift wedding happened. You happy? I acknowledged it. Great. Have fun. Have fun with that. Anyway, that's about it. That's all I've got for you. Um, be kind to each other. Be kind to each other. There's no reason to spread gossip, to spread rumors, to cause hurt and mental anguish via social media. There's no reason to do that. Be better. As I often say in my advice posts on Facebook, be better. Be better. But that's it. We're gonna go get out of here. Tune in next week for another great episode of the show. Hopefully, I'm not coughing like this. I don't want to cough anymore. I'm done with coughing. Thank you for listening. I appreciate all of you. Listener numbers are fantastic. They're shooting through the roof. They're double what they were just a few months ago, and I couldn't be more pleased and humbled. And I thank you. I thank all of you. So that's it. Have a good night. See you next time.